Good evening and welcome everyone, councillors, for press and the public, to this extraordinary meeting of the Town Council. This meeting will be held under the regulations allowing local authorities to meet formally using remote technology. It is being streamed live and is available to view on our website. It is most important for everyone participating in this meeting to keep your microphones on mute when you are not speaking to reduce disruption from background noise. Most decisions will be made by the general assent of those present. However, if a vote is required, each councillor's name will be read out by me or the town clerk, and you will be asked to state whether you are for, against, or abstain. If at any time the town council's technology fails and we need to adjourn the meeting for a short period, I will confirm this and ask all those present to turn their cameras off and mute their microphones while the problem is rectified. I will then confirm when the meeting resumes. We can only monitor our technology and cannot halt this meeting if a member of the press or public experiences technology issues. I will now ask the town clerk to carry out a roll call of all councillors and ask you to confirm that you are present. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Baker. I'll take that as a no. Councillor Blanchard Cooper.
Present.
Councillor Butland.
Present.
Councillor Chase.
Present.
Councillor Long.
Present.
Councillor Malloy.
Present.
Councillor Northeast.
Present.
Councillor Price.
Present.
Councillor Rhodes.
Present.
Councillor Seeks.
Present.
Councillor Tandy.
Present.
Councillor Turner.
Present.
And Councillor Dr. Walsh.
Present.
Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 1 on the agenda, mobile phones. Members are reminded to switch off their mobile devices to silent for the duration of this meeting, and they are asked to note the previously approved protocol for remote meetings, which is in place for the duration of this meeting. Item number 2 on the agenda, apologies.
We have none, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item number 3 on the agenda, declarations of interest. The standing declarations are noted. Members and officers are reminded to make any other declarations if they become apparent at the appropriate time during the meeting. Are there any further declarations? No, I'll take that as a no. Moving on to item number 4, urgent items. I will ask the town clerk to advise us if there are any urgent items.
There are none, Mr. Mayor.
Item number 5 on the agenda, which is a public forum in accordance with the remote meetings protocol, which has been introduced by the town council. Any members of the public wishing to address the council or its committees during remote meetings should have emailed their submission to us one clear day before the meeting, and I'm informed that there's nothing from public forum. Item number 6 on the agenda, officers' reports. Please turn to page 4 on your agenda papers. Before I hand over to the town clerk to take us through this report, can I remind members that this meeting is devoted to this one item. The report has been produced and takes into consideration the discussion at the Town Council meeting in November and our principal support for the continuation of the post subject to certain actions. I will now ask the Town Clerk to take us through the report and then open up this meeting to questions. When we open up this meeting to questions, I would like to remind members, especially the dual-hatted members, they have the correct hat on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report picks up from the last council meeting, and I'm not going to revisit that at all, other than to say that the resolutions from that meeting, in unconfirmed form, because we haven't had the council meeting since, are set out on the first page of the report. Following the meeting, I met with colleagues at Arran District Council and created with them a draft action plan for the forthcoming 15 months if it was to be approved. The action plan is attached as an appendix. If members are happy with that action plan, I will then still need to share that with the traders and probably a bit more with the district, but the broad concept should be there. The action plan was circulated to group leaders initially, as requested at council, and comments from them have hopefully been incorporated, although if they don't feel that they've been incorporated clearly enough, please let me know and they could be changed or highlighted further. They were certainly accepted by the district council. Also attached is the job description. If members wanted to change a job description, that's a little bit more difficult because the employee is obviously an employee of district council and therefore the job description is part of his contract of employment. However, any practical help or suggestions could at least be considered by those two parties. At that point, having discussed those, members then need to decide whether that is satisfactory enough to agree to the continuation of the post for another 12 months. What didn't really get discussed at the last council meeting, but really does need to be addressed, is the fact that should members agree or should they not, there is no money from the district council that's been identified at the end of 21-22, for the year 22-23. And this is an issue that we genuinely need to address very urgently. Now, very urgently, I think it's a question of perhaps identifying some models that might work in the future, taking those forward through liaison at the earliest stage, working them through our own committees and seeing what the future might hold. I know at least one model has been circulated, and that could certainly be one of the models that we could put on the table at a certain point in the new year. However, that, notwithstanding any other discussions about the TCRO, the future of the support that the town centre will get from the councils and from other bodies is an absolutely vital issue, and it's in danger of being lost. So I just flag that again because it does need discussion. So in effect, I'm happy to answer any questions on the action plan, on the job description, on any other part of the report. At that point, members need to make a decision, but they also need to agree the importance, I hope they're going to agree, the importance of some urgent work with the district council to secure the future. Happy to answer questions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Peter. I have first Councillor Emily Seeks.
Thank you. Firstly, I thought that in that meeting, obviously we can't go back and watch it back because it was an exempt business last time, but I thought the agreement was that the group leaders would meet with the district to discuss what we wanted from this role going forward. And so that's just one point of the actual process that we've got here. Then my other concerns are that when you actually look through all of these items that are listed of what this role will deliver, it is the responsibility of Arran District Council to progress the paperwork and all of the work involved with delivering the public realm improvements and regeneration. Bognor did not have to top up the money for any employees at District Council to deliver their public realm. So I don't think the question in front of us is, do we want this person to be made redundant? It's, we should be asking Arran District Council to fully fund an Arran District Council role and take responsibility for delivering the public realm. The bits that are in there that aren't the responsibility of the District Council are organising meetings for the Traders Partnership and things like that. And I think we could well look to get a town centre manager in place, as I've said before, who then will deliver things like events and marketing and oversee security and additional cleansing as a town centre manager would. So we have a substantial sum of money that the town council is putting in various pots for town centre management, but none of it's coordinated or working together, which is a separate issue. But what we've got here is not town centre management, and I don't see why we should be paying for that. And we were told in the last meeting that the role had naturally progressed to him now being more office-based and dealing with the public realm contracts and getting that working, which is natural when you have a job description, you employed with one job description and your role develops and you do something else. But he's now not doing the role of walking round, and we've spoken to shops and that's the case. You know, they do want a town centre manager that can do these things, but that's not the role we're discussing here. So I think we should just be asking district to fund their own role. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions? I thought I'd have a list by now. Councillor Mike Northeast.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm siding quite substantially with Emily on this. I'm reading the action plan, and to be quite honest, Chairman, it's nothing more than a lot of waffle. There's no need for an independent person to carry out most of this work in here. If you look at the support that's with it, with the so-called person, that support could quite easily cover the task that's named within those one to so many that we got here. I think the other thing as well is that we've got this action plan now, and I think if we were being asked to extend a contract for a year, like this is the first year and we're going into the second year now, I think we'd all be quite happy to do it. But we're 7 years down the line with this regeneration person, and I'd just like to know what we've paid for and what we've got out of it. Because if you look around, the place is still going downhill. The things that are in this action plan should have been brought to the table years ago, not now. And this action plan should have been written by the person who's doing the job. There's been no proactivity from this person at all to bring these things to the forefront. What we've got in the town is a few new signs, and that's not been coordinated. We've got so many different signs in the town now that was never carried through and done. I mean, I talk to traders, and traders say they haven't seen this person. You know, perhaps once in a year they see them. Whereas when we had the regeneration in 2000, that officer lived in the shops with them. They were always in there talking to them and finding out what needed to be done. And that post then was a paid for Arran officer, not somebody else, not a new post. It was done within Arran District Council. And if you look at this, most of these meetings, you've got loads of officers sitting there, which quite frankly could be doing the job of this person, and we don't have to pay this £20,000 out. If you look at some of the tasks, some of these tasks should have been done over the last 7 years, not just now in the last year when we got this supposedly public realm coming off. And at the moment, that's not definite. So we could end up paying for a position that we don't have the public realm work being done at all. Because as far as I know, it's not in the pipeline. Nobody's been contracted to do it yet. So, Chairman, I'm not in favour of supporting this. I think the £20,000 could be better spent, kept within this authority, and us doing a bit more within the town. Because what's happening at the moment is that we're going backwards in terms of Arran District Council are running the town. And years ago, what we said we'd do is take the town back into our ownership. And us as a town council would be calling the shots and making the decisions. But at the moment, it's being done by Arran District Council officers. And, well, it's going back to Arran District Council meetings where there's councillors that don't even live in the town. There's better ways of doing this. And this ain't the way to do it. And just picking up on what something Emily said about, if I can just find it, about that we were going to liaise, or Pete was going to liaise with Arran District Council. Yeah, that's been done. But then the minute actually says afterwards, and liaise with group leaders, and then informally with all councillors. Well, I haven't had that informal discussion, so I don't know what that minute was not carried out. And also the next bit says the Town Traders Partnership will be invited to contribute. I don't see anything within this report of what the town traders have said on any of this. I do believe this is shutting the stable door after the horse has bolted. This has all been done a long time ago, not now, when all we've got coming up is the public realm stuff. There'd be little chance to do anything else if the public realm project goes ahead, and that can be managed by, as I said before, the officers that we got. And also we've got a company which we're using, if I can just find that, who are put down as the professional lead. Well, I'd have thought they'd have been doing a lot of that work that the so-called town centre manager would be doing. So let's get out of this. Let's start afresh in the new year, and let's look at the way our town is managed and the way our town is sorted out. Because the other big thing that comes through glaringly on this action plan is that there's no member involvement. And we should be part of these discussions, part of these deliberations, rather than having to wait for an extraordinary council meeting or a committee meeting to find out what's going on, and then perhaps rubber stamp something that we can't really get out of. So let's grass the nettle now. We don't need to spend this 20 grand. Thank you, Chairman.
Through you, Chair, can I just answer a couple of questions on there?
Yes, please do, Peter. I was going to offer if you needed to come back.
Following the consultation with group leaders, the action plan was circulated to all councillors, Councillor North East. So for comment, so I can't understand why you haven't got it, but it was circulated to all councillors. In terms of the town traders are supportive. We will need to go back to their next town traders partnership meeting, probably their executive board, I think they call it, and they will have a more formal look at it. But obviously we're operating to our time scale, not theirs at the moment. Just wanted to pick those 2 points up, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Peter. And I have Councillor Michelle Malloy.
Hello. I'm on the same page with Emily and Mike with this. Our town centre, I believe, needs a town centre manager, not a regeneration officer. I spoke to the coordinator for the Shopwatch radios and the DISC initiative today, and he is a key player in what the safety and the running of our town centre. He was not spoken to by the Traders Partnership in the first little feedback that we had from them when we spoke about this role. There's also issues with the communication. There's no two-way communication, which this role is meant to offer to our traders between the council and themselves. And it's not that we don't need someone there. We need a town centre manager there, but we need them focused just on the management, because this person, according to the traders that I've spoken to, they feel he's being pulled in too many directions by too many people to fulfil his role in the communication of our high street. Looking through the strategic objectives that we've been given, if we take our £20,000 aside and we look at the whole pot of money, according to these strategic objectives, it looks very much like an admin assistant's job, which would be a very high paid one, in my opinion. Just coordinating meetings and liaising, you can get most people to do that on a much lower salary. So I don't know why we would put into this pot for this when it's not benefiting our high street at all, and people aren't seeing this person and they're not getting what they wanted out of it. The trader that I spoke to today, he actually believed that this was going to be an independent role and that this person wouldn't be answering to Arran District Council at all, because that's what they thought they needed at the time when it was taken on well before I was here. And I just think we really do need to look at it before we agree to give this money, because I don't think we're getting what we want for the money that we're giving. And I think the regeneration role is possibly something that district should be doing as district, and not taking money from us for it, because we need to spend this money on our high street and making sure that there's someone there all the time for our traders.
Thank you, Councillor Malloy. Did you have any comment, Peter?
Oh, no, none. There's just no at all.
Okay, I'll now move on to Councillor Freddie Tandy, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'll try and be brief, but I fear I've got quite a bit to say, so it may not end up. I'll pick up on what a number of people have said going before me, which is, I think I still have a real problem with it being called a town centre regeneration officer, because when you talk about regeneration, it becomes unfortunately boiled down to a small number of things that people believe regeneration is, and without rehashing previous arguments about the public realm, if we're putting and we're saying that his main strategic objective one is to deliver the public realm and that this is somehow going to regenerate our town centre, we are seriously deluding ourselves. If you can put down as many fancy pavements as you like, unless he has a real forensic focus on improving the retail vitality, or if not, diversifying the offer we have in that town, we are going to constantly keep having the same conversations about why is this town not getting better, because it's the same everywhere in this country. And given what's going on at the moment in various forms, I suspect it's not going to get better anytime soon. And that goes back to then the point that Mike made about, if this has been a post for 7 years, and if you ask someone, has the town centre got better in the last 7 years, I suspect most people would turn around and laugh at you and say, no, it hasn't. And in which case, however positive the possibilities of such a role are, if people, and my gut is people would say, actually, nothing's really changed in 7 years. Why are we wasting? Why are we going to put £20,000 in to do it again for another year in the hope that it will magically change? Because I agree with what's been said. There is absolutely a role for a town centre manager in this town, but reading this objective, and I will defend officers here because I did get a copy and I fed my points back and they've been included, and I'm grateful for them. So that if this does go forward, at least there are some things in there that I can support. My concern is if you gave someone who works in HR this document, I think they'd look at it and say, this isn't one person's job. This is this feels like a Frankenstein's monster of, oh, well, they could do this, they could do this, without an actual sense of what is it that we want this person to do. Yes, we want them to improve the town centre, but how? I just feel this is all, it feels very last minute. It feels very much like, well, if I'm going to be honest, and I borderline whether I can say this in non-exempt, is this a job that we've identified needs doing, or is it that we've got someone who needs a job to do, and that it feels like we're doing it the wrong way around, that we've got someone we need to give a job to, and we're taking things off the shelf. So it's because it feels like strategic objective 1 might come from Arran, and 2 might come from Arran, 3 might come from what the town council does, 4 might be both. It feels like we're just cherry picking things for this person to do without a clear forensic sense of what we're actually wanting. There's no outcome that I can foresee in a year's time. If we did this, And you asked me to say, we spend this money, will the town centre suddenly have got better in a year? I just don't. I think the problems in the town centre are far too big for one. And this goes back to, therefore, what the town clerk said, that actually we really need to have a conversation with Aaron about the future. Because if this is going to happen, if we're just going to keep doing this year and then in a year's time, scrabble some money together, then a year later, scrabble some money together, the person in post, regardless of who they are, is on this rolling 12-month contract with no promise. Why would they start something that might show fruition in 5 years if they're going to be out of a job in a year? It feels like we're making something up to kind of look like something's happening in the town. When I look at this, nothing in here suggests to me that things will get better in a year's time. If we voted no not to do this, I can't see it making a huge difference. If this job didn't exist, I don't think anything would get worse. Mainly because I don't think it can, because like we are in such a state, and it's nothing against this town. Other towns are suffering. I just don't see what this is going to achieve. And I think, as others have said, I think £20,000 is a lot of money. We could probably do something in-house a lot better for that price. And on that basis, given especially that the breakdown of costs is, I believe, just checking, 47,000 to the district and 20,000 to us. I don't want to start doing an us versus them argument, but if Aaron really think this is going to make a difference, then they'll find 20,000 extra, and we can use our 20,000 to do things that will actually help. And so, whilst I entirely think there is an absolute need for someone to coordinate and manage that town centre, I don't think this current role as put forward here is quite going to work. And in the best will in the world, I don't think any tweaks or amendments to a job description or an action plan is going to address that fundamental problem, that there are bigger issues that need to be addressed. And I don't think one person can do it, if I'm honest. I apologise for being negative, Mr. Mayor, but there it is. Thank you.
Thank you for your input, Councillor Tandy. I now have Councillor Dr. Walsh, and I do thank you for your patience, but I am going through the list as per order.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I think we have to be quite clear which hat we are wearing tonight. And several of us are dual-hatted and are members of Arran District Council, and I declare my interest, redeclare my interest as a member of that council as well. This post is funded, as Councillor Tandy has just said, £47,000 from Arran District Council and £20,000 from this council. So Arran is paying, well, roughly 2/3 of the cost, and we're paying 1/3 of the cost. It's very unfair, I think, of Mike, and I wish people wouldn't do it, Councillor North East, talking about Littlehampton Town Centre is going downhill and continues to go downhill. Littlehampton is a coastal town and is no different to many other coastal towns, particularly in the southeast. Most of the other coastal towns in the southeast region have much higher under occupancy of shops. It was reported last week that ours is around 10% under occupancy, unoccupied. Most of the others along the south coast are in the region of 15 to 25%. There's the odd one that's even 30%. So please don't talk our town down. And it is not unique. The whole country has been in a retail decline for years, hugely accelerated by the advent of online shopping, and even more accelerated by the advent of the COVID emergency, which has had an enormous impact on footfall and upon the retail viability of many chains and small traders in town centres. And I would like to take the opportunity of paying tribute to our town traders, but actually keeping the town centre of Littlehampton as vital as it is at the moment. It's through their trading partnership, through their spirit of enterprise, through their entrepreneurship, through their commitment to their businesses and to this town, that we've kept it one of the brighter stars along the south coast. Look east, look west, we're still doing quite well. Fortunately, we didn't have a Woolworths anymore. Fortunately, we didn't have a Debenhams to close in the middle of this. Yes, we've lost other chains, but they are relatively small buildings compared to some of the big ones in Worthing or Chichester or elsewhere, that will be easier to fill, and hopefully we'll see that happening. We're about to see the demolition of what I call that monstrous carbuncle, the ex-Waitrose Summerfield building, and a more pleasing and more successful use of that site to happen there. We're about to see £3.5 million of public money via grants being invested into the public realm improvement for Littlehampton Town Centre. We are exceedingly lucky to have that coming to Littlehampton, and many other towns will give their eye teeth for that sum of money to be invested at the moment to help lift the town out of the post-COVID emergency, which is when it will happen. And the contract has been let. Hopefully the name will be announced on by the end of this week, if not very early next week. The contractor has been selected, but because of the purdah period that allows other unsuccessful bidders to contest it if they feel there's been any unfairness, we're almost at the end of that. It finishes at the end of this week. That contractor has been selected and the work will be starting. So please don't give impressions that we don't know if it's going to happen. It is going to happen, and £3.5 million is going to be spent in Littlehampton over the next year or so. That's going to be a huge lift to our town centre. Is this the right time to pull the rug and say we no longer need a town centre regeneration and town manager? It would be the height of folly, in my view, to pull the rug and say this council has no confidence in this post holder and in the post. We need to give every ounce of support to lifting up our town centre and to support our town traders and their partnership. So please, please do not throw the baby out with the bathwater because you've got some niggles over it. We need to continue this, and this isn't an ongoing commitment. The money is running out. This is a commitment probably for the most vital year of the 7-year of this post holder's employment. And to remove him from it at this stage would be quite the wrong thing to do, give the wrong signals. And Arran will not put its £47,000 in. That'll just disappear back into Arran's coffers. I'm quite sure of that. We will be left with £20,000 to do what? To have a few more signs up, to have an admin clerk, as somebody mentioned, in the office. As for the criticism that the town centre manager hasn't been seen, well, many of us haven't been seen much since March this year because of a thing called COVID-19. We've been asked to stay at home, to work from home, to visit shops and places only when necessary. My visits are extremely fleeting. I had to self-isolate for a while, beginning of the pandemic, and being in a vulnerable age group, I have to watch my comings and goings very carefully. So I haven't been seen, and people may criticise me for that. And I wouldn't criticise any employee of any council who has not been so visible in the town centre in the last few months. It's because there's a pandemic, and that's the official advice. It's not to do with not doing the job. The job still needs to be done and needs to be done thoroughly. So please don't, in this most vital retail week of the year for many traders, when a lot of them are on their uppers because of we're now in tier 2, we do not want to give the wrong sign and discouragement to our town traders partnership, to our town. Let's talk it up. Let's give a vote of confidence. Let's go ahead with this appointment for another year, the most vital year coming out of this emergency. Chairman, I will support the recommendations because I think they're the right and only thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dr. Walsh. I'll now move on to Councillor Emily Seeks, wishes to come back very quickly.
Hello, I just wanted to come back on some of those things. Sorry, I'm going again, but I don't think there's any doubt that, sorry, my video's on. I don't think there's any doubt that the town has potential, and I'm not putting any doubt that we could do a lot more. I'm just saying that this job description for somebody working on regeneration in the office and sorting out the public realm project is not what's needed. We've got a huge population in Littlehampton. Chichester has a smaller population than Littlehampton has. We need to just bring back, with our town council hats on here, we need to bring back some of the people from Rustington to go shopping in Littlehampton. So we don't need to do anything amazing, and we have the money. So we're saying let's invest and do it better, let's do it well and thought out. We're spending hundreds of thousands on events in the high street and stickers and wall murals. If we just put another 10k of that money into a job, you'd have 30 grand and you could get a town centre manager that just worked in Littlehampton. So this is not at all about us not investing. It's wanting to do it and to do it right.
Thank you, Councillor Seeks. Thank you, Councillor Seeks. I now have Councillor Buckland, and I will apologise because I missed you off the queue, Councillor Buckland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and apologies accepted. And I, you know, yeah. So apologies accepted, Mr. Mayor. Yet again, and I do say this, yet again, we come back to council because council has previously decided that they're either not happy or they're not 100% supportive of this role. And if I remember rightly, I think that's what came across from the last full council. But yet again, we are brought back to this issue. Mr. Mayor, as a town councillor, and there's 3 of us in this meeting tonight that are ward councillors for the town centre, River Ward, which is the main, and that's not being disrespectful to any other of the town councillors because they have their wards and all the rest of it. This is actual fact that I make, that there is 3 of us at this meeting tonight. 3 of us that, whether you're Littlehampton Town Council, Arran or West Sussex, regardless, haven't actually been consulted or spoken to in reference to any of this other than when it comes to you know, full council or other meetings that we might attend. But actually, as councillors as a group, and I don't mean that as a group, but as individual councillors, we actually haven't really been spoken to and said, do you think this would be good in River Ward or the town centre, whichever the case may be? Now, a comment that I would like to raise a question on is that Dr. Walsh, Councillor Walsh, has actually stated a minute ago that Arran, if we don't put the 20,000 in, Arran won't put their 47,000 in. Well, that's a question of, well, why not? If they're going to pay 47,000, that would keep the position running. Surely not. Other mentions have been about the job at the moment being office based, which is a fair comment. Again, you know, yes, we have had the COVID, but being fair, prior to the COVID, the officer within the job wasn't really particularly seen. And I've got to be honest, there was things that have happened in the town centre that the actual officer knew nothing about, and neither did the ward councillors. And suddenly we're going, well, how come this has happened or that's happened and we don't know nothing about it? So we as councillors that should know, don't know, and we're made to look silly. I also wonder, you know, the officer that's in this position, which I have no access to grind with, also works with other colleagues that are supposedly in tune with the regeneration. And I think maybe there was a bit of a chuckle, but at the last full council, did I not mention that the events that happen in the town centre are, I would actually say 95% done by us, the town council. And I think, personally, my personal opinion is we do a better job than what anybody else does or can, because we've got the staff that have the knowledge and the experience of doing these, you know, and even the newer members of staff that have come on board have done an excellent job and supported our town in doing these events. If it's not us that are doing these events, it's normally some other organisation that is actually doing the events linked in with another organisation, i.e., dare I name them, LOCA and the Bonfire Society. They come along, they get the permission, and then they set it all up and do it and run it as a day, whichever the case may be. So the fact of, like, if we're going to do this, I think this job description, or what's the actual wording of it, the Littlehampton Town Centre Regeneration Action Plan, etc., needs to be looked at, revised, certain areas of it all stripped down, taken back to bare bone, because I think that there's work in here, on here, that could actually be done by our town council officers, to keep them in a position, to keep them in work, etc., and then, as has been stated by others, to have a town centre manager, if that's going to be the case, or we take it on as the town council. We know what we're doing with the town, we know how things operate in the town, and we've got experienced councillors that can help and support all them members that are there. So, Chairman, I understand where Councillor Walsh is coming from, etc., and I'm sorry, but as it sits right here, right now, I cannot 100% support this role as we're talking of tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Buckland. I'll now move along to Councillor Jill Long, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been listening to all of this. Sadly, I was unable to attend the last full council meeting, but I've learnt a lot in the meantime. I do support what Councillor Walsh is saying. We have to acknowledge we've got enormous challenges ahead of us, and I simply don't feel that we can do it on our own. We've got the public realm work coming along. We've got to keep the existing businesses on board during the post-COVID period, not just at the moment, but we've got to think further ahead, helping to assure that the high street shop's appearance is improved. I know a lot of work has gone into that, but I do feel we need a better focus, trying to, if we can, more closely engage with landlords, and I know that's difficult. And so all of this is very closely entwined in this role as it stands at the moment. But it has to be to ensure that broader success. I feel that the action plan as it's laid out at the moment may need some small amendments, but I do feel that it creates a better accountability framework to ensure better delivery of the agreed targets, and it will develop over time, as these things do, and has already been mentioned during this evening's discussions. I don't think I've got an awful lot more to add, other than if we don't do this now, I dread to think what the situation would actually be. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Long. Now have Councillor Tandy, who would like to come back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your indulgence, and I apologise. There was a couple of things I missed, and that what Councillor Dr. Walsh said triggered my mind, and that was on online shopping. Clearly, there has been a huge rise in online shopping, and my gut is I suspect that a lot of people, once they've realised how easy it is, may not ever go back. And so, what I was going to ask was, if we are moving, and I don't know how it's going to go, and I'm still not convinced, but if we get to a point where we agree this, could I ask that we look at the action plan and that we provide, or we ask that the post holder does something about trying to get online shopping and the town centre kind of married up. So, for example, having collection points in the town centre, so where people can get it delivered free, and that would take them into the town centre to increase footfall, or possibly even work with the traders partnerships to try and see that actually to support some of our independent businesses about see if we can come up with some system where they can sell online so that people can see it, try it, and then perhaps it might increase their overall business. Because, you know, I'm not, if they're going to make money on the internet as well, that I think that would be positive for them, and they can invest in their shops as well. So that's the first one. And then the second one, what I was meant to say before was I said that I'm just not comfortable with the way that this is going about year at a time. So on recommendation 3 on page 5, recommendation 3 says enter urgent discussions with the district council as to how the future town centre work will be coordinated and delivered, which I think is important. Could I ask or propose that at the end of that, the words are added of something along the lines of with an absolute deadline of the 31st of July 2021 for reporting the outcome to either full council or policy and finance, depending on where it goes. Just because I'm not willing in a year's time to be sitting in a meeting 4 days before Christmas with this undecided. Now that we know we are a year and 4 or 5 months away from the next financial year starting, if we're going to do this, and there is going to be some sort of plan for afterwards, it needs to be done in good time so that there is long enough for a full and comprehensive plan to be put together. Because I think what we're hearing here is lots of people are saying, and I've just done it, so I'm not being hypocritical here, but what we're saying is, oh, can we add this in? Can we add this in? There needs to be sufficient time that we can plan this in advance if it's going to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tandy. I now have briefly Councillor Michelle Malloy coming back.
Hi, sorry to come back again because I do know we're short for time. I was wondering if we could look at this a bit like some of our councillors do. They're dual hatted, so they wear a district hat and a town hat, and etc, etc. This person is wearing a region hat and a town centre manager hat. Could we not take the town centre manager jobs off him as such, and therefore district could potentially reduce his pay and just have him on regen? Because James has said that we need this regeneration officer, we're having a lot of building work, but as a town councillor, our shops need a town centre manager that's focused purely on helping them. Sorry, I've gone a little bit blank. They're not getting it. They're not getting what this person is proposing in here at all. So I was just wondering if we could look at it that way and maybe take some of the pressure off this regeneration officer for running the town centre bits and potentially have our own town centre manager helping the shops.
Thank you, Councillor Malloy.
Sorry, were you waiting for me? Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to pick up on a load of points at the end. Do you want me to wait to the end?
No, that's fine, Peter. If you keep it to the end, I'm happy with that. I now have Councillor Andrea Turner, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councillor Dr. Walsh, he spoke very passionately about this post and the town centre, and I commend him for that. But there strikes me that there's distinct lack of communication and contact between district and town. Town don't always seem to be consulted, and district don't seem to tell town what's going on. The classic example Dr. Walsh mentioned is the Waitrose building, when town council planning were unanimously against and objected to the proposed building that has now been approved by district. So they haven't taken account at all of the fact that town council were totally against this development. However, regeneration is due to start in March, we hope at the latest. this is when this particular post we're talking about of the regeneration manager would expire. And so I'm very concerned that about that clash of dates. I think it's very, very bad timing to lose the town centre manager just at the time when regeneration work is about to start, especially at post-COVID situation as well. So that really concerns me. I'm very torn because I can see exactly what Dr. Walsh has been talking about, and I can support that, but I can also see that really town needs to have more say in this. I would suggest, why can't this town centre manager attend some of our council meetings to update us? And I would suggest that the January meeting is a prime time for him to come and tell us what his plans are. So I'm very torn, and I'm still to be convinced one way or the other. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. I now have Councillor Blanchard Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think there's been very good discussion on this tonight, and I can see both sides on it. I really can. I think for me, the key to this is, though, the timing on this, which is what I think James has kind of alluded to more so than most. That's not to disparage any comments. It is the timing. We're being asked to extend this for this short period. And the way I see this is that in supporting this, we then offer that stability for this extra section. I know there are suggestions being put forward of using £20,000 to support this role or to make a new role. I would ask all those councillors that are thinking along those lines to ask themselves honestly how quick they think that can be done, because that has to, as all councillors will know, these things have to go through a cycle of the committees. A job role specification and advertising all has to be done. Interviews have to be done. Training has to be done where appropriate. Do you at all honestly believe you could get what you're asking for in that short time to give the town what it needs and deserves, continuity, for that amount of money? Okay, so I would be really careful on that. I think the points that Freddie came up with, Councillor Tandy came up with earlier, very good, and I'd like to second those and support him on those. Going to the actual report, because I'm trying to get my comments short and sweet. Going to the actual report on item 5, it states together with the attendee of the TCRO to at least 2 meetings of the Policy and Finance Committee during the year, it's likely that these would be best at the June and December meetings. I would just like to try and put some meat onto that and say that whichever one is before December, and I'm sure Peter will be picking up on this, if it could have a emphasis on what the plan is for Christmas, that is known in the trade as the golden quarter. That is where a lot of businesses either make or break. I wonder if June would be too early for that, perhaps August, but obviously the town centre manager would, or town centre regeneration officer would be best to advise as to what would be best sat for that, considering the other types of meetings he'd be involved with. So I am in support of this, but with obviously with the next stage, as Freddie's put, so that we're not sitting here, as quite rightly said, on the 21st, 4 days before Christmas, having to make that decision again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blanchard Cooper. I now have Councillor Mike Northeast very briefly, please.
Thanks, Chairman. I didn't realise I was going to come up so soon. Yeah, can I just pick up something on what Councillor Walsh said? I find it a bit insulting when he turns around and says, "Please remember there's a pandemic." How can we forget? It's in our faces all the time. We know that's happening. You don't have to tell me that and use that as part of the argument. We know that has caused a lot of problems for our town. And the thing about it is, it's caused a lot of problems, but there's been no help from the person that's meant to be helping. If you look, you've only got to look at our neighbours, Rustington, and see how they've come back into the shopping market with the way they publicise their town. And look at the banners we've produced and where they are. Can you name where they are? Because I don't think many people can, because they're in such obscure positions that nobody can see them. Yet Rustington, they're everywhere. They've even got a banner in Littlehampton. They have, promoting Rustington shopping. Now, we're talking about keeping somebody on that's been here 6 years, and we've got precious little to show for it, and spent nearly £500,000 on it. You know, and now we're saying if we don't keep them on for another year, we're gonna be even worse off. Not true. Just look at the action plan, go through it, look at all the things in it, and there are enough officers there involved with this that could quite easily coordinate and promote this action plan. And there's officers between West Sussex, Arran District and Littlehampton Town Council. You don't need this extra role. But what you do need is a good town centre manager that's working to our agenda and doing the things that we want to see and what local traders want to see in the town. And I'm not against the role. I'm against this person carrying on with it, because I've got no confidence.
Councillor North East,
yeah.
Can we keep it to the agenda? And it is about the role, Councillor North East. I must remind you of that. Sorry.
Well, that's what I am talking to, Chairman. Just one thing that Councillor Tandy picked up on. It's a very, very good point, and that is I saw a programme of another town just recently, and I've checked it, and a lot of other towns are doing it, and they're creating the name of the town online, like Littlehampton Online, and all the local traders then post onto that website. And what they're doing is, if local people want to buy from them online, they go through that online, that website, and then they get delivered to locally. And let's face it, people are getting into that habit now of buying online, and they want to continue doing it, whether we like that or not. This is the old argument of out-of-town superstores that we had at the turn of the millennium. They're there, people use them, and we're living with them now. And we've got to evolve and change to live with the way people want to shop now. And that's where we could be spending our £20,000, not on an admin person that really is only going to do what most of the officers that are involved with these officer meetings could carry out. And there's also a company there, as I said, who are classed as a professional lead, which could be doing a lot of it as well. So let's keep hold of our money and spend it on the town centre and get things done that we want to see done in the town centre. Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor North East. I now have Councillor Joe Price very quickly, please.
Hi, thanks for letting me speak, Chair. Can I just ask, did Bognor Regis Town Council pay for the support that they received during their public realm? I understand and agree that we need to give the town continuity during the during the new redevelopment, but yes, the guidance was work from home, but where you can't work from home, you need to go to work. So during COVID, potentially, he should have been going into those shops with the mask on and doing the job through the town centre. Is there no way that we can do a 6-month extension rather than 12, which would only then cost 10,000, so to get us started through the public realm? And I do think we do need someone that we employ so we can performance manage if they don't do the job role, which I know we can't speak on it, but potentially we're not seeing the full job role being carried out. So if we employ somebody as a town centre manager, we can performance manage them. They can come to monthly town council meetings. We can be more involved. It's a really tough decision, but I don't think we get 20k is a lot of money for what we've all talked about tonight, but I know we're pushed for time. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Price. I don't have any more. Thank you, Councillor Price. Don't have any more questions now. I'll just make. I think everyone's covered it really well. Some councillors have covered it very passionately, and we must respect them to that. I will have one comment myself. I do struggle with the fact that I know certain things are needed. I struggle with the fact that it's a year's extension, and people are saying, well, we need to have a year's extension to give us continuity. But I think at a year's time from March, you are going to be 2/3 of the way through the public realm work. And where are we going to stand then? I do not think this has been thought out very well at all. So I'll now hand over to the town clerk to summarise.
I'll just go on to a couple of questions first, Mr. Mayor.
Please do.
The Bognor Regis question came up. The Bognor Regis, in terms of the public realm and the town council funding, it wasn't necessary because it was wholly funded by grant. So the district council didn't contribute either. It was a grant funded expenditure, as I understand it. The comment about Waitrose was made, and how about the town council made one view and the district council another. That was a planning application. We're perfectly entitled to make a comment, and the district council has to follow the planning guidelines. So I just wanted to just be clear on that. It wasn't, because I would argue that the current agenda that we've got at the moment on a number of things, some of which are causing some consternation, is probably, since the Town Centre Action Group, the closest that we've ever worked with the district council. We've got a number of schemes that we were running in partnership, and a number of so I think it was mentioned that we weren't sharing things, but I think that is probably not correct. We are certainly doing so. The comment was made about them reporting, the post reporting back, and it wasn't being picked up in the action plan to the town council. I think that has been picked up, and Councillor Bradshaw Cooper picked it up and highlighted as well. So the idea was written into that of a monthly report similar to the one you get from Aaron Church for the youth work. And as Councillor Bradshaw Cooper mentioned, 2 meetings a year. I think the point he makes about Christmas is very valid, and probably in September, so it probably should be 3. The comment was made about the collection points and IT. I think all of those are the important things, whatever way we go forward. I think they're vitally important. The other point that Councillor Tandy made about the 3rd recommendation, and it actually pretty much sums up what it should have said in the first place. So I totally take that on board in terms of timing. It needs to be sorted and a way forward agreed by then, so that it can feed into the budget cycles, etc., for the council later on in the year. The fact remains that the district council have stated absolutely black and white that they will not be funding this post after March 2022. That is the statement that has been made to us. So we have, hence the recommendation 3, and hence the reason it was on the last time round, we have limited time to, as a town council, if we wish to work with the district council at all, to resolve that problem. We need to get the district council to change their mind, to have joint funding going in. The recommendation, therefore, going to July, that is a type of timescale. I mean, we would need to be taking on board the proposals that have been set out today, a number of them. The opportunity for this post to continue in its guise after March 2022 is 0. A new model is needed. It just can't, there is no funding for that post as it is. A whole new model and a whole new way of operating is what is required, hence the 3rd recommendation of this paper. We need to somehow convince the district council that they want to come and join us on that. If we don't, we're going to have to fund whatever it is ourselves. Maybe the choice the council makes. Obviously, I'm not trying to tie the future council's hands. Picking up on what Councillor Blanchard Cooper said about timescales, there is categorically no way that any of this post is going to be in place very soon. We don't know what it is yet. There's lots of people who are talking. We haven't put anything in the budget for it. This is a one-off payment at the moment, met from earmarked reserves, because we know the post is coming to an end at the end of next year. So the way forward, if you don't fund it, that's fine. That's your decision, councillors. But you do leave a gap, however much you look at it, between, even if you go down that route, to the point where your new model, whatever that might be, could come into play. If that's the right time to do it, then if that's a member's choice as well. I think it is not helpful to say that the post holder has not contributed anything to the town over the last 6 years. I mean, those of you who are district councillors, if you genuinely believe that, should have been taking that up through the right avenues at the district council. Those of you who aren't should have been taking it up with me. Some of you are new councillors, so I totally take that on board. But that post holder has done significant work, be it on policing, be it on working with the trades partnership, be it on liaison with us, be it on liaison with other players, and it is just not fair or reasonable to turn around and say that a person has contributed nothing. It's just not true. You may disagree with me, but I'm the person that works with it, I'm the person that gets the liaison, and you know, it may be that there hasn't been enough interaction with members. I will concede that. I think that's true. I think it's something we've picked up on. It's been picked up in the action plan. But if members, you know, the last meeting, I was just going to finish by saying, the last meeting you agreed in principle subject to this action plan. If you're not happy with the action plan and you don't want to proceed, I think you need to make that choice. And there's nothing much more that I can say.
Thank you, Peter. There is one thing that I'd like to come back on to, Peter, because I think it's been mentioned a lot. Why do we find ourselves in the position we are in now when the post comes to an end in March 21? We're doing a minimum 18-month project on public realm and we're offering to extend it to 22. We're going to be in the same position next year, and I'm just astonished why we found ourselves in this position now. Really? Through you,
Mr. Mayor. In terms of the public realm, it's a very good point. I don't know how the district are going to result, because the work will continue past March 22, and they will need to find a way of doing that. I don't know how they'll do that. The significant chunk of town centre work, though, will need to continue in one form or another, or not. In terms of why now, it was identified that there was an issue in funding. I think the financial situation at District Council brought that on faster. I would much have preferred to have been sitting down and having a discussion with the district and then coming back with proposals for yourself about a 4-year, 5-year plan. This was all predicated originally on getting Section 106 out of Marks and Spencer's, and we've been waiting for it, and no progress has been made on the Marks and Spencer's side. So that would have paid for 2 to 3 years at the post. I can't remember if it was 2, so not 2, 2, 3, 2 or 3, and I can't remember which now. So that's the reason. By the time that COVID had struck us, it became absolutely blatantly clear that Marks and Spencer's wasn't going anywhere in the immediate future. So that's why the discussion started in late summer, and that's why we came through with this route. I think that was there anything I missed there, Mr. Mayor? Does that answer the questions?
So, Peter. So I think in that case we proceed to the vote.
So yes, do you want to do it recommendation by recommendation, Mr. Mayor?
I will take your guidance on that, Peter. I'm happy whichever way you feel is best.
So the
Sorry.
Councillor Seeks.
Forward a proposal. I don't know how to formally do the process, but can I put forward a proposal that another option is put forward to vote on, which is to go back and say we'll extend the post for 6 months while we work out a job description and recruit a town centre manager? If that's what everyone seems to be saying they want, but they just don't think we can get it done fast enough. If we extend for 6 months, then that's a good sort of halfway house.
I'll second that.
I'll second that proposal if necessary.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Buckland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did put up, if I could.
Do apologise, Councillor Buckland.
That's right, Mr. Mayor. I was going to come forward with a proposal, I was going to come forward, Mr. Mayor, with a proposal similar to Councillor Seeks, but actually to maybe suggest that we defer this and look at obviously the plans of the statements within the Littlehampton Town Centre Regeneration Action Plan, and debone it, and then come back to the table on that aspect. Similar to what Councillor Seeks is suggesting, but I was going to actually suggest that we debone it, because I do believe there's things on there that us as the town council, which I said earlier on, could actually do. And I actually agree with Councillor Price in reference to the 6 months. So I'm happy either way, really. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, the one thing you can't do here is defer it. That is not an option. There is someone's employment contract on the line on it here. Deferring it, say you might do something, that doesn't leave the employer any option other than to make the post redundant. That's not an option. In terms of 6 months, you could resolve that. What I would suggest to you is that obviously that depends on the district accepting it as viable, which we don't know sitting at this table. So what I would suggest, if you do that, you have a plan B. So if that is not acceptable, then you need to know a way forward.
Okay, I think any sensible negotiation would start with, this is our once and final offer, so it's this or nothing, because that's what they've offered us, so it puts the pressure on, and unfortunately that's how business works, and we have to be sitting here championing in the town council. So sorry, that's not true. That's not what they said to us as a once or nothing. Well, it was if we wouldn't possibly keep this person on, even though they need them to deliver the public realm, seems unlikely, as there's other people leaving in the team. And I don't want to get into my district hat things, but I think that might not be quite the case in reality.
Apologies, Councillor Seeks. We must deal with the amendments now and go to the vote. So you've got. So to take it or leave it on 6 months, so just be crystal clear through you, Mr. Mayor. Is that the amendment?
Yeah, just a proposal back to them that we'd extend for 6 months, and we'll look to put together a job description that's a town centre manager, and that person would be completely entitled to apply for that role. It's not about the person at all. It's just about creating a role that's actually set up for success, which this role isn't, because it's torn in too many different directions.
Thank you.
Okay, so the first recommendation actually wasn't about that. So, the first recommendation was about the action plan. So, which was to comment upon and endorse the action plan. So the first recommendation would be to endorse the action plan. So to summarise that, so
sorry, Pete, can you tell us what page you're on? I've got two. Looks like I've got two recommendations.
Page 5, Councillor North East. Right. Okay, and you say the first one
is about the action. Yes, I've got it now. Okay.
Yep.
Kevin, on a point
Yep.
of order, this vote started about 10 minutes ago and we've had lots and lots more discussion. You were calling the vote and we've now got into a to and fro on all sorts of other things. The vote should have been started 10 minutes ago when you called it.
Yeah, cool. If everyone's happy, we will go to the vote.
Right, so the first vote is to, in very simple terms, I will come back to the amendment in a minute because it applies to the second recommendation, just to keep councillors on board. The first recommendation is to endorse the action plan as set out in Appendix 3 and to note the job description. So I'll go through each councillor and the answer would be approve, or yes or no. Let's go with yes, no, or abstain. So yes, you approve the recommendation. No, you don't, or C, you abstain. Yeah. Starting then with, I'm just going to check Councillor Baker hasn't appeared. No. Councillor Blanchard Cooper.
For or yes.
Okay. Councillor Buckland.
No.
Councillor Chase.
No.
Councillor Long.
Yes.
Councillor Malloy.
Against.
Councillor North East.
You're on mute, Mike.
No.
Okay. Councillor Price.
Abstain.
Councillor Rhodes.
No.
Councillor Seeks.
No.
Councillor Tandy.
Against.
Councillor Turner.
Against.
And Councillor Walsh.
Or
Okay, so that's clearly is not improved. So the action plan is not approved, and by default, given that the resolution last time round, you are going down a route here. But because you've got an amended version of it, so we've now got with amended and seconded version. I did hear a seconder, I believe. Councillor North East, that was it. Thank you. Which is to approve the expenditure of, this would then become, if amended, this is the amended version of £10,000 from earmarked reserves to fund the Town Council's contribution to the 1-year extension of the Littlehampton TCO post for 6 months from April 1st, 2021. So the amendment is to do the 6 months and alter the finances accordingly. Remember, it's clear about that.
Yes.
So it's for a 6-month extension and then half the money.
Yes.
Are we going to have a debate on the amendment or
You
proposal?
are? Yeah.
Thank you.
I should open it up to questions, please. Councillor Price.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just with the 6-month extension, obviously I mentioned it first. I just think that that's the best option. If we can't, if some of us are saying that they don't want to do the year because it shouldn't be extended, and obviously half or a few people are saying that it should be because of the regen. If we do the 6 months, then that's us giving back to the district saying, you know, we're willing to help, we're willing to contribute, we do want someone in our high street, but we're just not prepared to sign off 20,000 for the year for the role and the action plan. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Price. Now I have Councillor Dr. Walsh.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would support that. Clearly, there is a mood amongst councillors tonight, and I think we need some certainty for this. We can't just stop it. So I would support the 6 months proposal as a good compromise and a good halfway house that seems to unite most, if not all of us.
Thank you, Councillor Dr. Walsh. I shall now move to Councillor Michelle Malloy.
I agree with the 6-month proposal. I don't know if it's because obviously the way the council works, I'm new, remember, but we leave these things quite till the last minute, and then it's all urgent and quite rushed when people have so many questions. I think this 6 months will give us time to sort things out and get our heads around what it is we want and are looking for, instead of giving us a few months period before we have to make this decision with all the meetings. So yeah, I'm for this.
Thank you. Very briefly, I'm going to have Councillor Blanchard Cooper, then Councillor Turner, and I'm going to take it to the vote, please. Councillor Blanchard Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm loosely in support of this. My concerns are that if we're offering effectively we're offering a 6-month extension to an employee, and I would be concerned about how focused they would remain if they believed that that contract would not be extended further with such a important time in the town council, in the town's history, with the regen project or the pavement project. I would just like clarification though, if we are doing this as this option only. I'd be much more comfortable if it was we would prefer 6 months, because I am very concerned that, I mean, obviously we do have the leader here from ADC, and I'll declare my interest as ADC, but I am concerned that if it was generally not supported to only have 6 months, it kind of puts us back to square one on it. But as I say, I am generally supportive of a 6 month as a compromise. I am just worried about it being a 6 month or nothing.
Thank you, Councillor Blanchard Cooper. Now, just going to hear quickly from Councillor Andrea Turner, and then we will go to a vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to support the 6 month compromise, though by having voted against the action plan, we're not going to have the town centre manager or officer reporting to us. Can we invite him to our January meeting to update us on what is going to be happening and when? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. I'm quite confident a lot of discussions will be after this meeting and on the way forward, so I'm sure Peter can summarise briefly and what.
Yeah, very briefly.
We will go to the votes. Yeah,
Mr. Mayor. I would not be suggesting that this placeholder comes to the January council meeting, which is going to be budget heavy, and a number of other things are going to be on that agenda. And I wouldn't be suggesting. I think it should be coming to Policy and Finance Committee. That's the committee that deals with this, and we should be going from there. But the point that Councillor Turner makes is far more. The first point that Councillor Turner makes is important. Is that by not having the action plan approved, I don't think that's going to be very helpful in terms of directing this post even for the 6 months as to what we want from it. So we'll have to create some other action plan based on that we'll do at officer level. So because we haven't got the time just to keep bouncing this backwards and forwards, because the person will have gone by the time that we actually get anywhere. So we will use this as a base between myself and the post line manager to deal with that, because you've resolved not to approve it. So we'll have to use something along those lines. So in terms of the amendment, then, were you going to the amendment, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please, Peter.
The amendment is the second recommendation, but with the figure 20,000 to amend 20,000 to 10,000, and to amend the 2021, so to run from April the 1st, 2021 to the 30th of September 2021. So I'll run down again, starting with, I'm just going to check Councillor Baker hasn't appeared. No. Councillor Blanchard Cooper.
4.
Councillor Buckland.
4.
Councillor Chase.
4.
Councillor Long?
On the basis of this is the only way to take this forward, then I will have to support it.
Okay. Councillor Malloy?
4.
Councillor North East?
4.
Councillor Price?
4.
Councillor Rhodes?
4.
Councillor Six?
4.
Councillor Tandy?
4.
Councillor Turner?
4.
And Councillor Walsh.
4.
So the amendment is proved, which then takes us through to the amended recommendation 2. So, I mean, you might, Mr. Mayor, want to do that by general assent on the basis that everybody has agreed the amendment.
Yeah, I think that will be general assent, and they need to start up at the first liaison meeting in January.
Sorry, so the second recommendation is it's recommendation 2, sorry, Mr. Mayor, which is incorporating the amendment's been approved.
Yeah.
So now we need to take the recommendation itself.
Yeah.
So you might, are members happy on general assent with that?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think the last one is explicit. So enter urgent discussions with the district council as to how future town centre work will be coordinated and delivered. It says with an absolute deadline of 31/7/21.
Can we do that by general assent?
Yep,
Yeah.
by general assent, anyone
Yeah.
not happy?
No,
Yeah, happy.
Agreed.
Agreed.
So that's those recommendations then, Mr. Mayor.
thank you. Item number 7 on the agenda is exempt business, and there is none. This meeting is now finished at 6:58.
While councillors are still, I'm happy to do this in case the public are